Hello, everybody. It's been a while. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 7 of the Art of Creation show. I cannot believe we've been at this for a while now. So, how does it get any better than that? We started in January 2017, have gone through a bunch of different changes, and I'm super excited to announce that this season is going to be a little different. So I'm going to just jump right in, and what I perceive with this, who knows what will show up with this. There's something. And I anticipate this being something that people listen to as replay as well as live, and hopefully even often, a lot, over and over again. So just for this to get started, I wanted to share a little bit with you about what's been going on with me over the hiatus and what led to what I'm choosing with the show this season. So as those of you know who have been with me through at least in the spring, if not longer than that, I was pretty sick in the springtime. And my body required a lot of rest, a lot of downtime. There was some delirium. There was a lot of bed rest, and a lot of things showing up where the body just kind of got out of the way, the mind kind of got out of the way, and a lot of things have been shifting and changing dynamically for me ever since, and with me. Through me, all of the things have been very dynamically changing and shifting. And it's kind of put me in this place of, more question than I have been in a long time. And, I liken it to when we think about the butterfly, right? You have this beautiful caterpillar, and maybe it's even, maybe it even has different colors, maybe it's furry, maybe, whatever it is, you have this caterpillar, and then it goes through this transformation process to become a beautiful butterfly, something very, very different. The caterpillar is still in there somewhere, but the butterfly is what shows up. Well, from here to here, there's a bit of a mush stage, right? If you were to actually go in to the chrysalis, you would find in that middle stage just kind of like a mushy thing. And I've been feeling a lot like sort of that mushy thing, which is, not necessarily an easy thing to share. And it is what's been showing up. And I knew that something was changing, or there was something else coming in for the Art of Creation show, and I kept asking, what is it, what is it, what is it? And my mind wanted so much to just know and plan and figure it out and have it all plotted and mapped and charted, and yes, that's wonderful. And as I was bringing in guests for this upcoming season, there still was something, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And then I was walking with a friend, and she reminded me of a book that I had read, years ago. And it just kind of dinged me a little bit, like, oh, this is one of those things where I could pay attention. And so I went back, and I found the book, and I reread it. It is called, I don't know if you can see that, The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, published in 2007, I believe, originally. And I reread it, and it was as though I had never read it before. And have you ever done that? You read a book, and I have several books that I read over and over and over again. And as I was reading it, I just got this little pop of awareness to read it to you guys. And my mind, my brain, hi, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. My brain had all kinds of reasons why that was not a good idea, right? Like, it's a different format. It's not my book. It's like all these things, right? And the more that I kept reminding myself and applying exactly the things in this book, which for me is where the magic shows up, I just said, you know what? Back up, expand, listen. You've been asking. So what would it be like to follow this? It feels like a knowing, right? So, and when I say feels, it's because my whole body, right? My whole body is a yes. My mind is like, oh, I don't know. And the knowing that sits back and watches it all is like, come on, girl, let's go. So the next several episodes of the Art of Creation show are not going to be like before with guests, but I'm actually going to read this book to you. And I wonder, you know, as I say, right, eat the fish, spit out the bones. And so I wonder how much fish you will find in these words. And here's the thing, right? The whole thing about this show, at least for me, or the premise as I'm inviting guests or coming on the show, right? It's the art of creation, right? Looking at how choice creates, that choice creates, and different possibilities for creating a life and a living that can work for you, right? And there's all kinds of magic that's available there, right? And I'm not 100% sure about, you know, how the magic works and, you know, the synchronicities and, you know, where free will meets the divine hand and where, you know, where all of this comes together in a beautiful dance. Like, I don't actually 100% know all the details of that. What I do know, without a shadow of a doubt, is that when we let our minds, the chatter, rule our being, we have a very different experience in our lives than when we actually are able to follow what we know and tap into that deeper sense, that deeper knowing, that deeper connection. Okay? So this book, one of the reasons that I've chosen to read this book is because I really feel like it is helpful in that first step of really, you know, it's like, oh, be you. Okay, but what is you? Who are you? What's going on? Like, how do I even do that, right? And I think this is just such a great way of beginning that exploration with ourselves, of really noticing who's in here, right? And then from there, right, we can choose in every moment. Do we want to answer to the chatter of the mind? Do we want to expand? Do we want to take a vow of happiness? Do we want to churn in misery and judgment? Like, what do we want to choose? And that's going to create from moment to moment to moment in our lives. And then as we get bigger and we become bigger and bigger magicians and create all kinds of other things, okay, yes, let's get there. And, you know, how much fun can we have with that? And first, can we actually create the space? Can we begin within to facilitate all of that magic? So without further ado, I'm going to begin, okay? And feel free to hop on, hop off. If you're listening to this and you want to pop things in the comments, that's awesome. I will scroll. If there's anything at the end, I'll address it. Otherwise, if you're watching the replay, you can also pop those in comments. This can be an ongoing asynchronous conversation. And it can also just be something that you listen to later on when you have time. So let's begin. I'm so excited to have you on this adventure with me. I wonder what this is creating. It's fun. Okay, so here we go. We'll begin with the introduction. And a quote from Shakespeare. "This above all to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man." So Shakespeare's age-honored words, spoken by Polonius to his son Laertes in Act 1 of Hamlet, sound so clear and unambiguous. They tell us that to maintain honest relations with others, we must first be true to ourselves. Yet if Laertes were to be totally honest with himself, he would realize that his father may as well have told him to catch the wind. After all, to which self are we to be true? Is it the one that shows up when we're in a bad mood, or the one that is present when we feel humbled by our mistakes? Is it the one who speaks from the dark recesses of the heart when we're depressed or upset, or the one that appears during those fleeting moments when life seems so fanciful and light? From these questions, we see that the concept of self may turn out to be a bit more elusive than initially presumed. Perhaps if Laertes could have turned to traditional psychology, it would have shed some light on the subject. Freud, 1927, the father of psychology, divided the psyche into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. He saw the id as our primal animal nature, the superego as the judgment system that society has instilled within us, and the ego as our representative to the outside world that struggles to maintain a balance between the other two powerful forces. But this certainly would not have helped young Laertes. After all, to which of these conflicting forces are we to be true? Again, we see that things are not always as simple as they seem. If we dare to look past the surface of the term self, questions arise that many people would rather not ask. For instance, are the many aspects of my being all equally part of myself? Or is there only one of me? And if so, which, where, how, and why? In the following chapters, we'll undertake a journey of exploration of self, but we will not do so in a traditional manner. We will neither call upon the experts in psychology nor upon the great philosophers. We will not argue and choose between time-honored religious views or resort to statistically supported surveys of people's opinions. We will instead turn to a single source that has phenomenal direct knowledge on the subject. We will turn to one expert who for every moment of every day of their life has been collecting the data necessary to finally put this great inquiry to rest. And that expert is you. But before you get too excited or decide that you're not up to the task, first be clear that we're not after your views or opinions on the subject. Neither are we interested in what books you have read, classes you have taken, nor seminars you have attended. We are only interested in your intuitive experience of what it is like to be you. We are not looking for your knowledge, we are seeking your direct experience. You see, you can't fail at this because yourself is what you are at all times and in all places. We simply need to sort it out. After all, it can get quite confusing in there. The chapters of this book are nothing but mirrors for seeing yourself from different angles. And though the journey we are about to embark on is an inner one, it will draw upon every aspect of your life. The only requirement asked of you is the willingness to honestly look at yourself in the most natural, intuitive manner. Remember, if we are seeking the root of self, what we are seeking is actually you. As you read through these pages, you will find that you know much more than you thought you did about some very deep subjects. The fact is, you already know how to find yourself. You have just gotten distracted and disoriented. Once refocused, you will realize that you not only have the ability to find yourself, you have the ability to free yourself. Because spoiler alert, you're already found. Whether you choose to do so or not is entirely up to you. But upon completion of your journey through these chapters, there will be no more confusion, no more lack of empowerment, and no more blaming others. You will know exactly what must be done, and should you choose to devote yourself to the ongoing journey of self-realization, you will develop a tremendous sense of respect for who you really are. It is only then that you will come to appreciate the full depth of meaning in the advice, "This, above all, to thine own self be true." All right, so part 1, Awakening Consciousness. Chapter 1, The Voice Inside Your Head. Shoot! I can't remember her name. What is her name? Darn. Wait, here she comes. What is it? Sally? Sue? She just told me yesterday. What's the matter with me? This is going to be embarrassing. In case you haven't noticed, you have a mental dialogue going on inside your head that never stops. It just keeps going and going. Have you ever wondered why it talks in there? How does it decide what to say and when to say it? How much of what it says turns out to be true? How much of what it says is even important? And if right now you're hearing, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't have any voice inside my head, that's the voice inside your head talking to you. If you're smart, you'll take the time to step back, examine this voice, and get to know it better. The problem is you're too close to be objective. You have to step way back and watch it converse. While you're driving, you hear internal conversations like, wasn't I supposed to call Fred? Oh, I should have. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. He's going to be so mad. He may never talk to me again. Maybe I should stop and call him right now. No, I don't want to stop the car right now. Notice that the voice takes both sides of the conversation. It doesn't care which side it takes, just as long as it gets to keep on talking. When you're tired and trying to sleep, it's the voice inside your head that says, what am I doing? I can't get to sleep yet. Oh, I forgot to call Fred. I remembered in the car, but I didn't call. If I don't call now, wait, it's too late. I shouldn't call him now. I don't even know why I thought about it. I need to fall asleep. Oh, shoot. Now I can't fall asleep. I'm not even tired anymore. Oh man, but I have a big day tomorrow. I have to get up early. No wonder you can't sleep. Why do you even tolerate that voice talking to you all the time? Even if what it's saying is soothing and nice, it's still disturbing everything you're doing. If you spend some time observing this mental voice, the first thing you will notice is that it never shuts up. When left to its own, it just talks. Imagine if you were to see someone walking around constantly talking to himself. You'd think he was strange. You'd wonder, if he's the one who's talking and he's the one who's listening, he obviously knows what's going to be said before he says it, so what's the point? The same is true for the voice inside your head. Why is it talking? It's you who's talking, and it's you who's listening. And when the voice argues with itself, who is it arguing with? Who could possibly win? It gets very confusing. Just listen. I think I should get married. No. You know you're not ready. You'll be sorry. Oh, but I love him. Oh, come on. You felt that way about Tom. What if you had married him? If you watch carefully, you'll see that it's just trying to find a comfortable place to rest. It will change sides in a moment if that seems to help. And it doesn't even quiet down when it finds our one way is wrong. It simply adjusts its viewpoint and keeps on going. If you pay attention, these mental patterns will become obvious to you. It's actually a shocking realization when you first notice that your mind is constantly talking. You might even try to yell at it in a feeble attempt to shut it up. But when you realize that's the voice yelling at the voice. Shut up, I want to go to sleep. Why do you have to talk all the time? Obviously, you can't shut it up that way. The best way to free yourself from this incessant chatter is to step back and view it objectively. Just view the voice as a vocalizing mechanism that is capable of making it appear like someone is in there talking to you. Don't think about it, just notice it. No matter what the voice is saying, it's all the same. It doesn't matter if it's saying nice things or mean things, worldly things or spiritual things. It doesn't matter because it's just a voice talking inside your head. In fact, the only way to get your distance from this voice is to stop differentiating what it's saying. Stop feeling that one thing it says is you and the other things it says are not you. If you're hearing it talk, it's obviously not you. You are the one who hears the voice. You are the one who notices that it is talking. You do hear it when it talks, don't you? Make it say hello right now. Say it over and over a few times. Now shout it inside. That is the voice. You can hear yourself saying hello, right? Of course you can. There's this voice talking, and there is you who notices the voice is talking. The problem is that it's easy to notice the voice saying hello, but it's difficult to see that no matter what the voice says, it is still just a voice talking and you listening. There's absolutely nothing that voice can say that is more you than anything else that it says. Suppose you were looking at 3 objects: a flower pot, a photograph, and a book. And then you were asked, which of these objects is you? You'd say, well, none of them. I'm the one who's looking at them. You're putting them in front of me. It doesn't matter what you put in front of me. It's always going to be me looking at it. You see, it's an act of a subject perceiving various objects. This is also true of hearing the voice inside. It doesn't make any difference what it's saying. You are the one who is aware of it. As long as you think that one thing it's saying is you, but the other thing it's saying is not you, you've lost your objectivity. You may want to think of yourself as the part that says the nice things, but that's still the voice talking. You may like what it says, but it's still not you. There's nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of the mind. You are the one who hears it. If you don't understand this, you will try to figure out which of the many things the voice says is really you. People go through so many changes in the name of trying to find myself. They want to discover which of these voices, which of these aspects of their personality is who they really are. The answer is simple: none of them. If you watch it objectively, you will come to see that much of what the voice says is meaningless. Most of the talking is just a waste of time and energy. The truth is that most of life will unfold in accordance with forces far outside your control, regardless of what your mind says about it. And this is where we can put a little pin. And after this, when we start looking at, okay, where's the magic? What is that all about? We can start to look at what some of those forces are and how we can play with them and where choice fits in with all of that. Okay, so back to the story. It's like sitting down at night and deciding whether you want the sun to come up in the morning. The bottom line is the sun will come up and the sun will go down. Billions of things are going on in this world. You can think about it all you want, but life is still going. It's going to keep on going. In fact, your thoughts have far less impact on this world than you would like to think. Again, thoughts become things. So watch what you're thinking, and more importantly, what are you being? And again, that will be for the next phase. If you're willing to be objective and watch all your thoughts, you will see that the vast majority of them have no relevance. They have no effect on anything or anybody except you. They are simply making you feel better or worse about what is going on now, what has gone on in the past, and what might go on in the future. If you spend your time hoping that it doesn't rain tomorrow, you're wasting your time. Your thoughts don't change the rain. Yes. And what else is possible? But there's a thing about not getting your mind all wrapped up and tripped up. So again, that's level 2. So you'll someday come to see that there is no use for that incessant internal chatter, and there is no reason to constantly attempt to figure everything out. Eventually, you will see that the real cause of problems is not life itself. It's the commotion the mind makes about life that really causes problems. Now, this raises a serious question. If so much of what the voice says is meaningless and unnecessary, then why does it even exist? The secret to answering this question lies in understanding why it says what it says when it says it. For example, in some cases, the mental voice talks for the same reason that a tea kettle whistles. That is, there's a buildup of energy inside that needs to be released. If you watch objectively, you will see that when there's a buildup of nervous, fearful, or desire-based energies inside, the voice becomes extremely active. This is easy to see when you're angry with someone and you feel like telling them off. Just watch how many times the inner voice tells them off before you even see them. When energy builds up inside, you want to do something about it. That voice talks because you're not okay inside, and talking releases the energy. You will notice, however, that even when you're not particularly bothered by something, it still talks. When you're walking down the street, it says things like, "Look at that dog. It's a Labrador. Hey, there's another dog in that car. He looks a lot like my first dog, Shadow. Whoa, there's an old Oldsmobile. It's got Alaska plates. You don't see many of those down here." It is actually narrating the world for you. But why do you need this? You already see what's happening outside. How does it help to repeat it to yourself through your mental voice? You should examine this very closely. With a simple glance, you instantly take in the tremendous detail of whatever you're looking at. If you see a tree, you effortlessly see the branches, the leaves, and the flowering buds. Why then do you have to verbalize what you've already seen? Look at that dogwood. The green leaves are so beautiful against the white flowers. Look how many flowers there are. Wow, it's so full. What you'll see is as you study this carefully is that the narration makes you feel more comfortable with the world around you. Like backseat driving, it makes you feel as though things are more in your control. You actually feel like you have some relationship with them. A tree is no longer just a tree in the world that has nothing to do with you. It is a tree that you saw, labeled, and judged. By verbalizing it mentally, you brought that initial direct experience of the world into the realm of your thoughts. There it becomes integrated with your other thoughts, such as those making up your value system and historical experiences. Take a moment to examine the difference between your experience of the outside world and your interactions with the mental world. When you're just thinking, you're free to create whatever thoughts you want in your mind, and these thoughts are expressed through the voice. You're very accustomed to settling into the playground of the mind and creating and manipulating thoughts. This inner world is an alternative environment that is under your control. The outside world, however, marches to its own laws. When the voice narrates the outside world to you, those thoughts are now side by side, in parity with all your other thoughts. All these thoughts intermix and actually influence your experience of the world around you. What you end up experiencing is really a personal presentation of the world according to you, rather than the stark, unfiltered experience of what is really out there. This mental manipulation of the outer experience allows you to buffer reality as it comes in. For example, there are myriad things that you see at any given moment, yet you only narrate a few of them. The ones you discuss in your mind are the ones that matter to you. With this subtle form of pre-processing, you manage to control the experience of reality so that it all fits together inside your mind. Your consciousness is actually experiencing your mental model of reality, not reality itself. That's where we've talked about cognitive dissonance. Okay, back to the words of the book. You have to watch this very carefully because you do it all the time. You're walking outside in the winter, you start to shiver, and the voice says, "It's cold." Now, how did that help you? You already knew it was cold. You're the one who's experiencing the cold. Why is it telling you this? You recreate the world within your mind because you can control your mind, whereas you can't control the world. That is why you mentally talk about it. If you can't get the world the way you like it, you internally verbalize it, judge it, complain about it, and then decide what to do about it. This makes you feel more empowered. When your body experiences cold, there may be nothing you can do to affect the temperature in that moment. But when your mind verbalizes it's cold, you can say, "We're almost home, just a few more minutes." And now you feel better. In the thought world, there's always something you can do to control the experience in some way. Basically, you recreate the outside world inside yourself, and then you live in your mind. Isn't that fun? What if you decided not to do this? If you decide not to narrate and instead just consciously observe the world, you will feel more open and exposed. Right? That's when we talk about barriers down, being open, expanding out. You've heard that in many, many episodes. And this is what we're talking about. This is because you really don't know what will happen next. And your mind is accustomed to helping you. It does this by processing your current experiences in a way that makes them fit with your views of the past and visions of the future. All of this helps to create a semblance of control. If your mind doesn't do this, you simply become too uncomfortable. Reality is just too real for most of us, so we temper it with the mind. You will come to see that the mind talks all the time because you gave it a job to do. You use it as a protection mechanism, a form of defense. Ultimately, it makes you feel more secure. As long as that's what you want, you will be forced to constantly use your mind to buffer yourself from life instead of living it. This world is unfolding and really has very little to do with you or your thoughts. It was here long before you came, and it will be here long after you leave. In the name of attempting to hold the world together, you're really just trying to hold yourself together. But we already know, what is that self? All those constructs, it can get very exhausting. True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. This is done by constantly remembering that you are the one inside that notices the voice talking. That is the way out. The one inside who is aware that you are always talking to yourself about yourself is always silent. It is a doorway to the depths of your being. To be aware that you are watching the voice talk is to stand on the threshold of a fantastic inner journey. If used properly, the same mental voice that has been a source of worry, distraction, and general neuroses can become the launching ground for true spiritual awakening. Come to know the one who watches the voice, and you will come to know one of the great mysteries of creation. I'm going to read that again. Come to know the one who watches the voice, and you will come to know one of the great mysteries of creation. So our next reading is going to be chapter 2, and it is entitled Your Inner Roommate. And we talk more about touching base with that inner voice. I'm actually going to read it now. Okay, well, at least we had a nice little break in there. So if you had to pause the recording and come back to it, you can do so easily. I'm going to keep going. So we're going to do chapter 2. Chapter 1 and 2 go very well together in my little concept of how I put this into my mind and my reality. So let's go. Your inner roommate. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. You're ready to grow when you finally realize that the I who is always talking inside will never be content. It always has a problem with something. Honestly, when was the last time you really had nothing bothering you? Before you had your current problem, there was a different problem. And if you're wise, you will realize that after this one's gone, there will be another one. The bottom line is you'll never be free of problems until you're free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing, you don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this? If you ask, what should I do about it, you've already fallen into believing that there really is a problem outside that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. If you're feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself, just ask, what part of me is jealous? That will cause you to look inside and see that there's a part of you that's having a problem with jealousy. Once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask, who is it that sees this? Who notices this inner disturbance? Asking this is the solution to your every problem. The very fact that you can see the disturbance means that you are not it. You are not it. You are not the disturbance. The process of seeing something requires a subject-object relationship. The subject is called the witness because it is the one who sees what is going on. The object is what you are seeing, in this case, the inner disturbance. This act of maintaining objective awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. This is the essential difference between a spiritually minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or stature. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. That's always the next problem. The only real solution is to take the seat of the witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. And if you've watched previous episodes, you may have heard us talk about the interesting point of view tool, right? Which is that every thought, feeling, emotion, everything that comes through, right? We're looking at it and just saying, oh yeah, interesting point of view. That's just one possibility, one point of view that I could take among an infinite sea of possible points of view. And that's what we're talking about here. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange everything outside in the outside world. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. And that's where it's so fun, because that's where then the magic can actually show up with all the flow of the energy. There really is a way to let go of the part of you that sees everything as a problem. It may seem impossible, but it's not. There is a part of you excuse me. There is a part of your being that can actually abstract from your own melodrama. You can watch yourself be jealous or angry. You don't have to think about or analyze it. You can just be aware of it. Who is it that sees all of this? Who notices the changes going on inside? When you tell a friend, every time I talk to Tom, it gets me so upset. How do you know it gets you upset? You know that it gets you upset because you're in there and you see what's going on in there. There's a separation between you and the anger or the jealousy. You are the one who's in there noticing these things. Once you take the seat of consciousness, you can get rid of these personal disturbances. You start by watching. Just be aware that you're aware of what is going on in there. It's easy. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. If you would like to meet your roommate, just try to sit inside yourself for a while in complete solitude and silence. You have the right. It's your inner domain. But instead of finding silence, you're going to listen to incessant chatter. Why am I doing this? I have more important things to do. This is a waste of time. There's nobody in here but me. What's this all about anyway? Right on cue, there's your roommate. It's so fun. You could actually take a minute, take a pause, and try to be quiet and just see what shows up. What do you notice? You may have a clear intention to be quiet inside, but your roommate won't cooperate. And it's not just when you try to be quiet. It has something to say about everything you look at. I like it, I don't like it, this is good, that's bad. It just talks and talks. You don't generally notice because you don't step back from it. You're so close that you don't realize that you're actually hypnotized into listening to it. So you think it's yours, right? Basically, you're not alone in there. There are two distinct aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intentions, and the other is that which you watch. And that's maybe what I would call the mind. He doesn't call it that, but that's how I look at it. The problem is, the part that you watch never shuts up. If you could get rid of that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity would be the nicest vacation you've ever had. Imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to bring this thing with you everywhere you go. Real spiritual growth is about getting out of this predicament. But first you have to realize that you've been locked in here with this maniac. In any situation or circumstance, your roommate could suddenly decide, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to this person. You would immediately feel tense and uncomfortable. Your roommate can ruin anything you're doing without a moment's notice. It could ruin your wedding day or even your wedding night. That part of you can ruin anything and everything, and generally does. Anyone can relate? You buy a brand new car and it's beautiful, but every time you drive it, your inner roommate finds something wrong with it. The mental voice keeps pointing out every little squeak, every little vibration, until eventually you don't even like the car anymore. Once you see what this can do to your life, you're ready for spiritual growth, right? And that's where choice comes in, right? Do I choose to notice? Do I choose to watch? Do I choose to make a change? You're ready for real transformation when you finally say, look at this thing. It's ruining my life. I'm trying to live a peaceful, meaningful existence, but I feel like I'm sitting on top of a volcano. At any moment, this thing can decide to freak, close down, and fight with what's happening. One day it's like someone, and the next day it decides to pick on everything they do. My life is a mess just because this thing that lives in here with me has to make a melodrama out of everything. Once you've seen this and learned to no longer identify with your roommate, you're ready to free yourself. Freedom! If you haven't reached this awareness yet, just start to watch. Spend a day watching every single thing your roommate does. Start in the morning and see if you can notice what it's saying in every situation. Every time you meet somebody, every time the phone rings, just try to watch. A good time to watch it talk is while you're taking a shower. Just watch what the voice has to say. You will see that it never lets you just take a peaceful shower. Your shower is for washing the body, not for watching the mind stop talking or watching the mind talk nonstop. See if you can stay conscious enough throughout the entire experience to be aware of what's going on. You'll be shocked by what you see. It just jumps from one subject to the next. The incessant chatter seems so neurotic that you won't believe it's always that way. But it is. You have to watch this if you want to be free of it. You don't have to do anything about it, but you have to get wise to the predicament you're in. You have to realize that somehow you've ended up with a mess for an inner roommate. If you want to be peaceful in there, you're going to have to fix the situation. The way to catch on to what your inner roommate is really like is to personify it externally. And this is fun. I really hope that you'll give this a try. Make believe that your roommate, the psyche, has a body of its own. You do this by taking the entire personality that you hear talking to you inside, and imagine it as a person talking to you on the outside. Just imagine that another person is now saying everything that your inner voice would say. Now spend a day with that person. You've just sat down to watch your favorite TV show. The problem is you have this person with you. Now you'll get to hear the same incessant monologue that used to be inside, except that now it's sitting next to you on the couch talking to itself. Did you turn off the light downstairs? You better go check. No, not now. I'll do it later. I want to finish watching the show. No, do it now. That's why the electric bill's so high. You sit in silent awe watching all of this. Then a few seconds later, your couchmate is engaged in another dialogue. Hey, I want to get something to eat. I'm craving some pizza. No, you can't have pizza now. It's too far to drive. But I'm hungry. When will I get to eat? To your amazement, these neurotic bursts of conflicting dialogue just keep going on and on. And as if that's not enough, instead of simply watching TV, this person starts verbally reacting to whatever comes on the screen. At one point, after a redhead appears on the show, your couchmate starts mumbling about an ex-spouse and a painful divorce. Then the yelling starts, just as though the ex-spouse were in the room with you. Then it stops, just as suddenly as it started. At this point, you find yourself hugging the far corner of the couch in a desperate attempt to get as far away from this disturbed person as you possibly can. Will you dare to do this experiment? Don't try to make the person stop talking. Just try to get to know what you live with inside by externalizing the voice. Give it a body and put it out there in the world, just like everybody else. Let it be a person who says on the outside exactly what the voice of your mind says inside. Now make that person your best friend. After all, how many friends do you spend all of your time with and pay absolute attention to every word they say? Oh, it sounds exhausting. How would you feel if someone outside really started talking to you the way your inner voice does? How would you relate to a person who opened their mouth to say everything your mental voice says? After a very short period of time, you would tell them to leave and never come back. But when your inner friend continuously speaks up, you don't ever tell it to leave. No matter how much trouble it causes, you listen. There's almost nothing that voice can say that you don't pay full attention to. It pulls you right out of whatever you're doing, no matter how enjoyable, and suddenly you're paying attention to whatever it has to say. Imagine that you're in a serious relationship and you're about to get married. You're driving to the wedding and it says, maybe this is not the right person. I'm really getting nervous about this. What should I do? If someone outside of you said that, you'd ignore them. But you feel you owe the voice an answer. You have to convince your nervous mind that this is the right person, or it won't let you walk down the aisle. That's how much respect you have for this neurotic thing inside of you. You know that if you don't listen to it, it will bother you every day of your life. I told you not to get married. I said I wasn't sure. The bottom line is undeniable. If somehow that voice managed to manifest in a body outside of you, you had to take it with you everywhere you went, you wouldn't last a day. If somebody were to ask you what your new friend is like, you'd say, this is one seriously disturbed person. Just look up neuroses in the dictionary and you'll get the picture. That being the case, once you've spent a day with your friend, what is the probability you'd go to them for advice? After seeing how often this person changed their mind, how conflicted they were on so many subjects, and how emotionally overactive they tended to be, would you ever ask them for relationship or financial advice? As amazing as it seems, you do just that every moment of your life. Having taken its rightful place back inside of you, it is still the same person who tells you what to do about every aspect of your life. Have you ever bothered to check its credentials? How many times has that voice been totally wrong? She doesn't care for you anymore. That's why she hasn't called. She's going to break up with you tonight. I can feel it coming. I just know it. You shouldn't even answer the phone if she calls. After 30 minutes of this, the phone rings and it's your girlfriend. She's late because it's your 1-year anniversary and she was preparing a surprise dinner. It was definitely a surprise to you since you completely forgot the anniversary. She says she's on her way over to pick you up. Well, you're very excited and your inner voice is chatting about how great she is. But haven't you forgotten something? Haven't you forgotten about the bad advice the inner voice gave you that caused you to suffer for the last half hour? What if you had hired a relationship advisor who had given you that terrible advice? They had completely misread the entire situation. Had you listened to the advisor, you never would have picked up the phone. Wouldn't you fire them on the spot? How could you ever trust their advice again after seeing how wrong they were? Well, are you going to fire your inner roommate? After all, its advice and analysis of the situation were totally wrong. No, you never hold it responsible for the trouble it causes. In fact, the next time it gives advice, you're all ears. Is that rational? How many times has that voice been wrong about what was going on or what will be going on? Maybe it's worth noticing whom you're going to for advice. When you've sincerely tried these practices of self-observation and awareness, you'll see that you're in trouble. You'll realize that you've only had one. your entire life. And you're looking at it. It's pretty much the cause of every problem you've ever had. Now the question becomes, how do you get rid of this inner troublemaker? The first thing you'll realize is that there's no hope of getting rid of it until you really want to. Until you've watched your roommate long enough to truly understand the predicament you're in, you really have no basis for practices that help you deal with the mind. Once you've made the decision to free yourself, or the choice, from the mental melodrama, you are ready for teachings and techniques. You will now have a real use for them. But first you got to know what's in there. You will be relieved to know that you are not the first person to have this problem. There are those who have gone before you who found themselves in the same situation. Many of them looked for guidance from those who had mastered this field of knowledge. They were given techniques and they were given teachings and techniques such as yoga, which were created to help in this process. Yoga is not really about getting your body healthy, although it does that too. Yoga is about the knowledge that will help you out of your predicament, the knowledge that can set you free. Once you've made this freedom the meaning of your life, there are spiritual practices that can help you. These practices are what you do with your time in order to free yourself from yourself. You will eventually catch on that you have to distance yourself from your psyche. You do this by setting the direction of your life when you're clear and not letting the wavering mind deter you. Your will is stronger than the habit of listening to that voice. There's nothing you can't do. Your will is supreme over all of this. If you want to free yourself, you must first become conscious enough to understand your predicament. Then you must commit yourself to the inner work of freedom. You do this as though your life depended on it, because it does, or at least the quality of your life. As it is right now, your life is not your own. It belongs to your inner roommate, the psyche. You have to take it back. You don't have to, and you can if you'd like to. Stand firm in the seat of the witness and release the hold that the habitual mind has on you. This is your life. Reclaim it. And that concludes chapter 2. So next week, we are going to continue with chapter 3, entitled, Who Are You? Right? So we already know you're in there, and there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in there too. So this is really cool, right? To notice that there's this mind, right, that's going on in our being, within our total holistic self, and just noticing, right? Notice where it's conflicting, where it's saying one thing and then it's saying another thing, and those things are directly opposite, right? And noticing that, and noticing, is there protection here? Or how is this serving me? What is this, right? And not then trying to get an answer, because now that's the voice again, right? But just, again, noticing. And in the meantime, just really allowing yourself to relax when you start to notice, and then when you start to perceive any disturbance or anything coming up around it, just, right? Walls down, barriers down, expand out. And how does it get any better than that? All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much to those who joined me live. And thank you to all of you who are watching this as a replay or listening to it as a replay. We will be back again next week. In the meantime, please, like this page, The Art of Creation Show, on Facebook, and click the little notification bell so that when I do go live, if you want to listen in to the reading as it's going on, that you will be notified that I'm inviting you. Also, over on the YouTube channel, this will be loaded up there. You can subscribe to that channel and also get these as they roll out onto YouTube. So thank you so much. If you have something that you would like to contribute to this, or if you are a guest, that would like to be on the show, you still can. I will, in the show notes, I will include the guest application, and you can still submit those applications. And who knows, maybe we'll pop a few interviews in if the energy calls it to be so, or we'll just hold them till the end. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna play this thing out. But just know that if you have something to contribute, either in the comments or as a guest on the show or in some other way that I haven't perceived yet, get in touch with me. Let me know. All right. So, who are you? That is the name of the next chapter, and that is the question that we're going to keep playing with. All right, guys, Choice Creates over the next week. What will you choose? And I can't wait to see what we discover next. Bye-bye, everybody.